HaChodesh hazeh lochem Rosh Chodoshim. This month, the month of Nissan, should be for you the first of the months of the year. This seems to be a pretty straightforward pasuk in the middle of Parshat Boy, introducing chapter 12, which is all the dinim of Pesach and Korban Pesach and Chometz and Matzah and Leil Seder, all comes in the middle of Parshat Boy, and it's introduced by this one pasuk. I'd like to have a closer look at the pasuk because there's something a bit odd about the way this pasuk is written, and I'd like to suggest to you, if you like, 4 different ways of understanding what the hidden message here is. The pasuk says, "HaChodesh hazeh lochem Rosh Chodoshim." Now, what's interesting is that the word lochem seems to be a little odd because lochem implies ownership, and the whole pasuk could have read very nicely, "HaChodesh hazeh Rosh Chodoshim Rishon hu lochem l'chodshei hashana." Why does it need to say lochem? In what sense is this month of Nissan owned by Klal Yisrael? This is your month. In what sense is this true? So I'd like to have a look at this a little bit more in depth. The first Perush in the Ramban is a very interesting one in itself. It's a whole topic, which is the whole procedure of Kiddush HaChodesh Al Yidei Bezdin. In other words, during the time of the Beis HaMikdash and a little bit afterwards, Klal Yisrael were Mekadesh Al Pi HaRe'iyah, meaning that every month the Bezdin had to declare whether the Rosh Chodesh was on day 29 or day 30, because as everybody knows, the lunar month has got 29 and a half days. So sometimes the Moilad, meaning the birth of the new moon, was on day 29, and sometimes it was on day 30. So which day was going to be Rosh Chodesh? And of course that influenced everything. Once we knew what day Rosh Chodesh was, it meant we could calculate when is Yom Kippur and when is Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. Everything depended on when was Rosh Chodesh. And the big chiddush here in the pasuk is HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving over the management of time into the hands of the Bezdin, into the hands of mankind, of Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael are now able to say, from now on, the months are lochem, the months are yours. You're a master over the time, and you can decide which day is Rosh Chodesh and which day isn't Rosh Chodesh. Not only that, if you know the Gemaras in Rosh Hashanah, Maseches Rosh Hashanah, the pages and pages of Gemara about how exactly this worked. There's also the second issue of adding another month, that they had the Rishus to add another month into the year when they saw fit to do so. And that meant that Pesach was delayed by another month, and everything was delayed by a month. And the idea that the time, we're accustomed to the idea that time is an objective standard, that it's something which ticks over irrespective of our decisions. We can't decide whether it's day or night. We can't decide whether it's this week or next week, but we can decide about the months. HaChodesh hazeh lochem Rosh Chodoshim. There's something about the Chodesh which is lochem, it's yours. And by doing so, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in some way involving Klal Yisrael with him together as a shutfus. It's a type of a partnership between the Boirei Olam, who created the natural world, and Klal Yisrael, who create the spiritual world. We create the Olam HaTorah, that we are the Am HaKadosh, the Mamleches Kohanim V'Goy Kodesh. That is a new creation. And that's really the pshat in the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah Daf Yud Aleph, where there's a machlokes between Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Eliezer, whether b'Nissan nivra ha'olam or b'Tishri nivra ha'olam. Was the world created in Nissan or in Tishri? So the Mefarshim explain, Rav Tzadok HaKohen and others, the Sfas Emes say, it's not really a machlokes between whether the world was created in Nissan or Tishri. It's just the different worlds we're talking about. Rabbi Eliezer is talking about the natural world, which is Maisi Yadei Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought into existence the cosmos, in all its detail and in all its massive size. Right, today we know about billions of galaxies, each one of them with billions of stars in it. So the size and the dimensions of the cosmos are literally beyond any number that we can possibly think of. And these were created. That was the creation. What everybody agrees that was in Tishri, Hayom Haras Elam. But the spiritual world was created in Nissan. The spiritual world is created in Nissan by Klal Yisrael accepting Malchus Shamayim, putting the blood on the doorpost, and declaring their emunah to follow Moshe Rabbeinu, Lechtech Achrei Bamidbar. This was a new Beriah. So Rabbi Yeshua says, "B'Nissan nivra ha'olam." The real world was created only in Nissan, because that's when the world had a tachlis, had a spiritual purpose. But Eliezer says, Tishri Nivra Ha'olam, because that's when the physical, natural world was created. Okay, so that's part of what Lochem means, that this month is yours in the sense that you've got a bailus over it. The second parish in the Ramban is that it's yours in the sense that it's the Rishon L'Geula. From now on, we're going to count the months, and our reference point is not going to be the Brias Ha'olam. Our reference point is going to be the Geula of Yetzias Mitzrayim. And we're accustomed to this. The truth is, lahavdil, we're accustomed to this in the secular world that we live, that we have the 1st of January is the beginning of the calendar year, but then there's another year. There's the academic year, which starts at a different date, and there's the tax year, which starts at a different date. We calculate the year differently depending on our range of interests. And therefore, the Torah here is saying, says the Ramban, this is HaChodesh Lochem Rosh Chodashim. For you, this is now the beginning of a new reality, the reality of the Geula, the reality of Klal Yisrael, and therefore this is the beginning, a new beginning for you and only for you. So the Torah isn't simply saying HaChodesh Hazeh Rosh Chodashim, that Nissan is the first of the months. It's only the first of the months because Klal Yisrael have been created now and have followed Moshe Rabbeinu on the way to Sinai and to Eretz Yisrael. There's a third parish in Sforno, which is famous, but is very profound for me every time I look at it again. The Sforno says, HaChodesh Zeh Lochem Rosh Chodashim means you're going me'avdus l'cheiros, from slavery to freedom. What is the sharpest expression of freedom after slavery? And that is that your time from now on is yours. Yours to do with whatever you want, whatever you consider to be important. Beforehand, your time as a slave, your time isn't yours, it belongs to your master. But now, HaChodesh Hazeh Lochem, from now on, you have a bailus, you have an ownership over time itself. And therefore, this month is now yours. It's the first of the months, which is yours. And therefore, you have to grasp it, carpe diem. You have to grasp the month and make the most of it because it's yours. This is actually, for many people, not so simple. There are books been written about this. One of the problems of people who go into retirement, people who spent their whole life really highly disciplined in their job, and after many, many years, and while they're in their job, they're always being told what to do, and they're always, the external world is forcing them to do certain things, and now they've retired, and they wake up in the morning, and now what? What do I spend my time on? So somebody who doesn't have any external interests, and he doesn't have any intellectual interest, and he's not involved in chesed or Torah or mitzvahs or personal development, for him retirement is a nightmare. It's a nightmare because he doesn't know what to do. But the Torah is saying, HaChodesh Zeh Lochem Rosh Chodashim, it's your month. It's now, says as far as you can decide what to do with the moments of your day. He says it's a new metziut bechiri. He says it's a new reality of freedom of choice. And therefore, use it wisely. Use it to do mitzvahs. And I'm giving you now a whole range of new mitzvahs to do, called Pesach, Matzah, Moror, etc. So that's the third pshat. But there is another very interesting. In connection with that pshat, a very interesting addition to that pshat is in the Baal HaTurim. The Baal HaTurim, his classic and his way of understanding Hebrew words, is a Chodesh Lochem. He says the word Lochem, Lamed Kaf Mem, is Oisios Melech. It's the same letters as the word Melech. In this month, you've become a Melech. In what sense a Melech? The Malchus of Klal Yisrael is that we can now decide, using our Bechira, how we want to live our life. That we're not anymore meshubad to the Avodah Zarah of the Mitzrayim and to the slavery of the Mitzrayim. And this is the freedom that Klal Yisrael have in every generation, even when we are in some way submissive and controlled by other nations. But the freedom that we have to focus our minds on our tefillah and our mitzvahs and our chesed, that is the real cherus olam. That's the real freedom that Pesach gave us, and therefore HaChodesh Zeh Lochem. That therefore it's yours, and you are a melech in that sense. And indeed, the first Mishnah of Rosh Hashanah starts off Abor Rosh Hashanim Haim be'echod beNissan Rosh Hashanah leMelachim. The first of Nissan is the Rosh Hashanah for kings. Of course, technically it means how they dated documents, dated according to the years of the kings, but it also has another symbolic meaning, which means Nissan was an expression of that Klal Yisrael were now melech. They ruled over what? They were masters over their own destiny, masters of their own time. And time itself, the relationship to time, changed completely. That's the third pshat. Right? So it's very, very interesting how the lochem has got this particular meaning to it. And there's another very interesting dimension here, which I'll just touch on very briefly, which comes from the Kliyaka. The Kliyaka is very interested in the fact that when the Torah tells us about Pesach and about matzahs, about Korban Pesach, it doesn't just say we have to perform these mitzvahs, it says we have to guard the mitzvahs. So it starts off, for example, with regards to the Korban Pesach, it says, V'hoya lachem lemishmeres. It's not just you should have the korban, but you have to protect it. What do you have to protect it from? Okay, from the Egyptians. As the Ramban tells us, the sheep was a holy animal for the Egyptians, and to slaughter the sheep was the ultimate act of defiance, equivalent to burning the flag in the modern world, to take a sheep and to shecht it. And therefore it needs protection. And Rashi says it needs protection from getting mum, from getting blemishes. So the protection of the sheep was the first time of Shmira. The second time, it was matzahs. It says, Shmartem as matzahs. We don't just bake matzahs. We have to protect the matzahs from what? From becoming chametz, right? And indeed on Leil Seder, we don't just eat matzahs. We eat shemura matzahs. So the theme of Shemira becomes a central point in the whole of Pesach. First, it's the Korban Pesach and needs Shemira. Then it's the matzahs. Then the third thing is, in Parshat 24, it says, Shmartem es hadova hazeh. And that's a reference to the blood on the doorposts. You have to protect it. You have to put the blood on there and you have to protect it. Why protect it? Because again, the Mitzrayim will be infuriated by it, will be in some way, they will want to attack you in a certain way. And the Shemira was that they weren't able to attack Klal Yisrael. The fourth time it says, speaking about Leil Seder. So for the fourth time, all in one chapter, for the fourth time, the Klal Yisrael are told not just to make the Leil Seder, but it needs a Shemira. Right? And finally, it says, referring to the Yom Tov in general. So we have 5 times, really, the word Shemira taking place here. And what's interesting is, says the Kliyaka, that actually, what is the response of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to our Shemira is that he says, this night will be a Leil Shimurim. The Leil Shimurim is the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu protects us. Right? And not only, Chazal say, it wasn't only a Leil Shimurim for that, on that night, but it's a Leil Shimurim for all future generations and at critical moments, whether it's Chizkiah HaMelech with Ashur, or whether it's Belayla Hahu Nodado Shanas HaMelech in Megillas Esther. This was Leil Seder, which was a Leil Shimurim for Klal Yisrael going forward for all future generations. So this, in that sense also, this is the principle, the reciprocal principle of Shemor Li ve'Shemor Lecha, says the Kliyaka. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu enters into a mutual relationship, so Ani L'doidi v'doidi li, as we say on Pesach, right? The Shir HaShirim is the mutual love between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael. In that sense, HaChodesh is Elochem. I'm giving you this month as a gift, a sign of my love and my Shemira for Klal Yisrael. And this is, Baruch Hashem, one of the most remarkable mitzvahs in the Torah, and Parshas Boy gives us a focal point on this this idea of lachem, the idea that Klal Yisrael use Chodesh Nissan every year as a strong link to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and he gives us a Leil Shimurim, and Halavai, that Shemira should protect us and Klal Yisrael in every country where we're facing hostilities and anti-Semitisms, and protect our soldiers and everybody in Klal Yisrael, v'chein yirata.